Toot, toot.
Okay. Welcome to the events calendar's office hours for this month. We are talking about customizations this time for beginners. So I'm gonna hand it right over to Stephen, and he can take us through some different examples, and then we'll have plenty of time for questions. So feel free to put any questions that you have in the chat, and we'll get through them towards the end. All right.
Hey, my name's Steve Page. I'm one of the devs for the events calendar, and I'm going to actually share my screen now. Yes, yes, and and I have to give it all the permissions. So please bear with me because there we go. Because my computer is like being weird. Let's see if this works. Let's do entire screen. Has lost permission. No. Oh, it's not going to let me do it. Hmm. I can't share my screen. Yay.
Do you
Uh,
need to like hop off for a second and
yeah, I need to
hop
hop
back
off for
in?
just a
That's
quick
fine.
second. I apologize.
You're good.
My system's being stupid. All right, hang on.
We'll see you in a
Let's try
sec.
this. Yep. It's going to prompt me here. System preferences and do this.
Okay, so while Stephen restarts, where's everybody from? Does anyone want to put where they're from in the chat? We can just wait a couple of minutes. Nice. I see Jersey there. I'm in New York. Oh, a bunch of people. There we go. Nice to see you all. I see Stephen is back.
I am.
Oh,
Hear me okay?
yep, you're good.
Great. Oh, whoops. Sorry. I'll try not to drop you into the infinite. We're going to go over a couple of different ways that you can customize the events calendar. and this is basic enough that often you'll be able to apply the similar concepts to anything on your site. So the first thing we've done, I have just our calendar here, and you can see I've done something to change this title color just to red. It's a really basic example. There's a few ways to do this kind of thing. The first, probably most straightforward for folks, is you want to inspect the element in your browser, and it's going to open up this inspector if you're not familiar with it. The inspector will show the actual element with the classes on it and everything. And then over on the side here, you'll get styles. And we can look at this and we can say, okay, well, this is the style that is setting the color. And we'll get to this piece in a second. And this, you'll notice in this list of classes, one is bolded, and this is the one that's being applied, right? Interesting that it's using hover. No, okay. So we can copy this. We're just gonna copy the whole thing, right? And then we can add a new style, and I just copied and pasted it, and then I tab, and then I can say I want the color to be purple, right? Now, you'll notice it's not going to work at the moment, and that's actually because I did something here. Let's take this out. And I'm just going to copy this real quick and refresh the page. There we go. Okay, now let's try this. Do, 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 do. I copied more than I meant to. So there's our style. It's gray now, which means that that hover is not being applied. And we can do color is purple. And you see it changed to purple. If you have a hard time seeing that there, now it's red. That might stick out a little better. And then these rules, you can copy this rule and you can add it to a separate style sheet, either in your theme or in a plugin or in some kind of code snippet plugin or something like that, depending on what your preference is for that. Um, any of these, you can always just inspect and it will highlight the item, and you can see here the span has a class of tribe events calendar list event venue title, and then it has tribe common b2 bold. And for the events calendar, when we do tribe common, those are like common styles that all of our plugins share. It's sort of the root of our whole system of styling. But the more explicit ones like this event venue title typically override those. And you can just use that one and not have to worry about the tribe common B2, because if you override a style like that, you may override something you don't intend to. So that's the first way, right? And that would require putting custom CSS somewhere. So like if we're in the customizer has an additional CSS section. It's here at the bottom when you first open it. And we can take that style, let me remove it here, and we can take that style and we can put it here and we can publish, and the customizer will do the same thing for us. You see it's red here, and now yeah, it's going to be a jerk about it, isn't it? And here's our style, and you can see the browser's crossing things off and saying, oh well, this is loaded, and then this is loaded, and this is loaded. This is the one that gets applied, right? So here you can see we have this var tech color text event title, right? And this says it's in something called view skeleton. So we know that sounds like that's some kind of base style. The nice thing about these are called custom properties in CSS. And the nice thing about these is we can override these instead. And we don't have to worry about this like order of loading so much. So if we go back here, instead of color, we're going to set the variable. And since we still want to be very specific to this, to our stuff, we can actually just do tribe common. For reference, anytime you put a calendar or a widget or something like that of ours onto a page, it will be in a div that has tribe common. You can see it right there at the beginning as a class, and if this will, there we go. If we outline, see, this looks like it's outlining basically the entire page. This is the events archive, so it is pretty much the entire page. But like if you got a page with, see, here's the header, that will be outside of it. So this will only apply to things that are in our views, or either single event or calendar views, by using this tribe common, but it'll apply to all of them across the board. And basically what we've said is we want our event title text color to be red. So we publish this, and then we can go back here and we'll refresh the page. And it's red. The nice thing about this is that we don't have to rely on things like an important, and you've probably seen something like this. Let's inspect this again, and we do this, and you'll see here this style is still being applied, but we've just changed the definition of this variable. So now it's red instead of black, right? So if we go back to what we originally had done there, we can say color is orange, and it applies, right? If we copy this and we go here, and you remember we did this before, and it didn't work because of the order things were loaded. So we're going to do this. We're going to put these in here and we're going to publish. This is some like fairly beginner CSS concepts, things like the order of loading matters, right? So now we've redefined this color, and you see our orange down here is getting overridden by that. So you can also do this. You can add an important at the end of that, and then when you publish that, nothing will be able to override it unless it is also using an important. And we usually discourage people from using importance because because you need an important to override an important, and go away. And You wind up with like long chains of styles with importance all scattered through them, and it gets really hard to tell where things are coming from. Um, so those are sort of the three ways to work on this. Again, like you can put things into this additional CSS section, and I'll keep doing that for this, but we don't have to. You can put it into your themes style folder or style CSS file. You can add it via plugin or however you want, right? This is just a nice handy way to do it for quick demo purposes. Um, let's clear our board here a little bit. Um, for the events calendar specifically, in the customizer, we also have um, a whole section that lets you do things. Um, we can change fonts, so we can tell it to inherit the font from the theme or use the calendar fonts that are set. We can change the font size. We got a simple slider that will like make it larger or smaller, and we scale. For what it's worth, this scaling and this scaling won't let you go below 8 pixels, just for legibility reasons. We can change the title colors, so we can purple. We can change the date color, the link colors. There aren't any links on this page. It'd be a link inside the text. We can change the background color of the whole thing, so we can make it, you know, red. Oof, that's rough. We can make it, sort of pinkish. And our accent color, if we let me clear this, go back to defaults, so you can actually see that this is getting getting applied the way it should. Our accent color, that default blue, you can change that as well to, whatever color you want. Here we go. The button uses the accent color, right? Um, those are the global elements. And then there are specific for the bar, which is this piece up here, the search and the view selector. There's a section for month view specifically, and a section for single events specifically. And these have specific sections because, of course, like there's a lot of extra things in these views that, you can change the color for the days of the week specifically, or the date marker, which is this number here. Um, there's the date marker. Let me pick a color that shows up better. The days of the week, you know. Um, the event spans, which are for the all day and multi-day events, have a specific section. You can alter um, the grid color, so you can set it separate from the main background color. and that type of thing. And then for single events, we've just got, you know, the title color, because we can target that specifically. Everything else you can do via custom CSS. So that's, I think I can cheat and just refresh the page because I haven't published any of this. We'll go back to basics. Um, we're mainly sticking to CSS changes here because we did a template one earlier and we had a lot of CSS questions. So I'm going to stay away from template stuff, but I am good to answer questions if people have them already.
Yeah, there are some questions. I can take a look.
Sure.
Let's see. Well, this is a general question, but someone's having issues with the events calendar in Elementor. If you want to put maybe some more specifics in the chat, we can maybe point you in the right direction. We don't have a complete integration with Elementor as it stands currently, but we have compatibility with Elementor, the native widgets.
Yep. Yeah, and a lot of the theme builder or like the more robust themes like Cadence, Elementor, Divi, and even some of the older official themes like 2021. They have some very specific styling that sometimes you need to target that to override it. Uh, Let me think if I can think of an example. I think, what are we on? Let's see. I'll go to my dashboard and see what theme I'm using. I think it's 2021 here. And I'm not using blocks right now here, but all the same rules apply for blocks. Just I'm using 2023. I'm using a block theme, but I'm not using blocks. So let's activate 2021, and then I will give you an example of what I'm talking about. I'm going to add a widget because I am familiar with this. Okay, we have a list widget here, but we're gonna remove it and we're gonna add a new one. This is going to be a month view widget. Legacy. Oh, maybe I'm not. Let's see if I can find the calendar widget's missing something about this theme. All right, I guess not. We're gonna keep with the list. Yeah. So the point was that, yeah, we're gonna leave. The 2021 theme has some very specific rules around things like links and buttons. So if we look at like this button, we have these huge styles and a lot of this like not active, not has background type of thing. Something very specific like that that comes from a theme has to be very specifically overridden, unfortunately, because you either override their custom property like I did for the events calendar, or you write a style specifically for this that overrides it. Like, well, if we're in Tribe Common, which is for our calendar, and we're using this button thing, then oops. Try this again. Tribe Common, and let's go back here. Then we can say, and it's not going to apply because we're not, but then we could say something like, come on, the color is red, we're not in Tribe Common there. That's just a search widget, but to give you an example, we could do this, and we can say, if we're in this widget and then the, let me recopy that for, this is what we want. X, delete these. If we're in this widget, what is this? This is widget block, widget search dot widget search. Then it doesn't want me to do it. Let me try a different one. Yeah, there we go. Button color red. We want background color actually. Background color red. You see it's not showing up, but then if we go back to our button, we find the style that's being applied. We can do this, and then we can find the one that's not, that's here. And we can apply, like this. And we're basically, by adding the parents class to it, we make it more specific, so it overrides the base classes here. So okay, that's like, without a specific example, that's probably the best tip I can give you, is to look for the styles that are being applied by your theme or your builder and directly override those, with the addition of a tribe common either on the outside or on the inside, depending.
Nice. How do I add location to the pop-up on the monthly menu?
Okay. The pop-up on the monthly menu, you're looking at a template override.
Do we have a knowledge
Here.
base article on that, or something similar?
We might.
Let me take a peek.
Oh, whoop. Yeah. View. We have this article on how to change the layout. They're doing this just via CSS. That's not what we want. We want the template. Templates.
Oh, here, display venue in the month view tooltip.
Yep.
I could put it in the chat.
Oh, excellent. Okay. You're faster at that than I am. Whoop.
There we
Well, essentially what you're going to do is you're going to find the template that is being used for that pop-up, and you're going to make a copy of it into a child theme for your site, and alter the template. So, or you're going to use a hook. Here, let me stop sharing for a second. I'm going to look at this article and see which it's doing. I imagine it's doing, yeah, that one's using the template. That's the file section, is using a template to do it. And then there's, or it's using a new template to do it, and then using a hook to insert that new template, which is the venue portion. Yeah.
Let's look at some other questions. Someone asked, we'd like to learn how to post a new event, add a picture, things like that. I posted in the chat just our getting started guide for the events calendar that there's articles in there on how to create a new event and do some of the sort of basic things before you customize them. So I think that should help. Um, and then do all changes need to be made in code? This is confusing for beginners.
Not all changes need to be done in code. Um, uh, for example, I showed you let me go back to sharing my screen, uh, the customizer here. Um, there are there are still some settings for the site, and then again for the events calendar, where these settings you don't have to code anything; they just let you do them. Um, if you have something specific that isn't covered by those, then yes, typically, usually you need code um, uh, to change styling, or if you're changing a template or something like that, there's no way out of using code. If you're using blocks, you can rearrange blocks inside the events post. Um, so you can change the layout a little bit that way. And the blocks themselves, of course, have the ability to like set specific styles and things like that on them as well. Um, but yeah, there's generally, once you get beyond the basics, you wind up needing to use some code. Um, Stop.
I'd really like to be able to set all images to be forced into the same size, especially in photo view.
Okay. Let me. Need, need Pro for that. Just have to activate Pro on my local. Um, so you have photos that are probably some that are portrait and some that are uh, landscape, or you have some that are larger than others. We do have a KB article about photo view, which there's actually specifically one about changing the photo view image size.
I got it.
Um,
I'll throw it in the chat.
okay. And it's a small code change. You can use CSS to try to force some stuff with that, but the template change that's in the knowledge base is probably the best way to do it, because not only one of the things to think about is if you load a really large image and then use CSS to squish it down, you're still loading that really large image, which means that the load time for your page is a little higher, right? Because you're loading a larger image. If you use the template method, it will load the proper size image from the get-go, and it'll load faster if you're loading a smaller one. Um, and so that's a better option, which is why that's the one that's in the knowledge base. You can definitely add some styling to here, back to me presenting. You can definitely add some styling to photo view. Oops, I have to activate photo view. To restrict the size. Yeah, go away. There we go. Display. So I'm going to go ahead and activate all the views for now, in case you get a question about any of the other ones. And then we'll go here and we'll just go to photo view. So if you look at these images, they have a max width and a height set, and that max width is 100%, which is the size of the block that it's in. Here we go. Right? And you can change that. So you can say, I want that max width to always be 150 pixels. You know, it's tiny, but you know. Or you can not change that and change the height to be a specific number as well, right? And then since this is a max width, it will adapt, right, based on what you set in for the height. And but if you set a specific width, like width is, you know, I'm going to set it really large just to be ridiculous, 500 pixels, right? You don't see anything happen because this max width restrains it to the size of its container. If we took that out, you see they get bigger, right? So you'll see there is a max height as well, but not all the browsers are as good about uh, Um, especially older browsers are not as good about respecting that max height, but you can set that as well, or you can say max height is 100%, which really like height auto is already doing that. But you can do that. You can see it's just tribe common image and this tribe events pro photo event featured image, right? So this is probably the one that you would want to target if you wanted to override these. So. But I highly suggest reading that article and following that path because it will improve. It will be more performant than shrinking images via CSS, right? So okay,
How to change padding margin in a single event on mobile view.
on mobile view, sure. Let's go to a single event. Uh, give it a moment. And for those of you that are not super familiar with the inspector, most browsers have a little toggle device toolbar thing here that will let you switch to mobile view, right? So we're in mobile view. We're going to refresh just to make sure that anything that's going on understands it's in mobile view from the get-go. And now you want to change the padding on the whole thing, right? You can see here that there's a template that on the main that has some padding set. We can remove it, which is maybe a little rough, or we can change it. So we could say padding is, oh wait, let me do this. This is the selector. This is an ID. Notice it starts with a hash mark instead of a dot. A dot like down here where it says site main, that's for a class. This is for an ID. The ID is more specific. So if you use an ID and a class to do the same, to make similar changes, the ID will override the class. But here we're going to do padding 20 pics. Well, it's not enough for it to really be noticeable. There we go, 30 pixels, right? And you can see now the padding, the ruler kind of covers the padding on the left, but that pads the whole thing. And if you need to pad specifically for mobile, you would want to use an app media rule. So let's do this. I'm going to copy this. We're going to go to our customizer, right? So I can write out the code and you can see it work. So this is the thing that we want to change, right? And we want to change it max width. We want to change it for mobile, just for the sake of argument. What am I using here? I'm using 375. So we're going to say max width 400 pixels. And now I'll do padding is 30 pixels. Let's publish that. And we're going to refresh this. And did I write my code? Yeah. No. It's being weird. Customizer's being weird about the media rule. Let's see if we do it this way, if it will behave. I don't usually write media rules in the customizer. Usually those wind up, yeah, it's still not applying it. But you can see here we have a at media screen and max width 782, right? So we'll just do it in here. I'm going to copy this one. Or actually, I'm going to change this one. We want this. So we're going to change this to this. And then we're going to say padding is 30 pixels, right? So this only applies, and we're going to change this number here to 400, okay? So you see it's still applying. It's actually, I think I'm going to cheat and use important here for now. Still not applying. Oh, no, that's right. Weird. Oh, it's being weird about the screen width because I'm faking mobile. But it actually is applying. If we turn this off and we look at it, you can do a computed and a layout, and the computed will show you the padding here is 20 now. And when we go to mobile, it's 30. So, so that's the way you would do it. You'd use a media query. This at media only. Screen just tells it to only do it for screens and not for print media if they print for some reason from mobile. And then we have a max width of 400 pixels. So only for screens narrower than 400. You can set that to whatever for like larger cell phones or tablets or what have you. And then our selector and then our padding. And if we, I'm in Chrome. So you would use a media query to do that.
I missed the templates customization. Is it available to view? I think that's referring to the last webinar that we. And yeah, you can find that on our YouTube channel. It's there. How can we apply a hero area to only the events listing page and not have it apply to all events pages?
Only the events listing page. So I'm going to assume you're talking about if we do list view, right? If we're looking at the calendar in list view by the events listing page. And there are a few ways to do that. Probably the simplest is going to be via a template hook to inject it and using a very specific template hook. We have articles on that. I think we're trying to stay out of the template stuff for this specific talk. But I'll make a note of that one, and if we do another template one, I will definitely address that specifically. I see one question about dark theme backgrounds and handling the font colors. again, none of our colors are hard coded, I guess. Uh, in those dark colors, I mean, they're coded in those dark colors, but generally, if someone were to say hard coded, they would mean something a little different than what you mean, which is fine. But let me give an example. We can make we can use dark mode, right? And um, dark mode support. Oh, that's a device setting. Let's just set our background color to black. Okay. And you'll see, boom, the theme adapts immediately, right? So let's publish this and let's go to the events calendar. Right? That's a problem. I agree. That's messy. So let's go back to the customizer. I'm going to do it. By the way, if you have the admin bar open and you click customize, it will open the customizer with the page you are looking at open so that you can see those changes, right? So we have the events calendar and we can go to global elements and we can say, I want white for my titles. I want white. I'm just going to use white across the board because they'll pop right back out. And we're missing one. What are we missing? Oh, we're missing the text content here, right? This is not white. Um, whoop, whoop, whoop. Didn't mean to cancel. Let's publish that. So we have those covered, but we need to get the rest of the text. Probably the thing you're going to want to do, let's remove this, is we're going to do another parameter override or custom property override here. If we inspect, whoop, that's not, there we go. If we inspect this paragraph, right, um, we can see font weight, text rendering. Let's filter. We want color. Come on, border, no, margin, color. And our color is TEC color text primary. So we're going to copy that value and we're going to go up here and we're going to say tribe common. And we're just going to set that variable and we just do that, this custom prop. And we just do that by, whoops, wait, boom, just like that. And you can see it's changed. Um, that will handle probably 90% of what you need to do. There's a lot of inheritance here. So if you're in this, I'm going to pull this up a little bit. And I think I can make this font slightly larger, which might be a little easier for folks to read. And you can see I set text primary as white. Well, text primary is one of our base colors, and a lot of the other ones wind up inheriting from it. So let me see. I actually have, if I can switch, is it going to let me switch? Here we go. So this is my code editor. This is the file that sets all of those variables before our styles are compiled. And you can see initially we set some of them to specific values, right? Like text event title. Oh, no, that one's inheriting. See, it's inheriting text color primary. So let's find the first instance of that. It's right here and it's set to that black. So if we override this one and this one, then everything that inherits, or actually like these four, basically, everything that inherits from those, which is all of the text colors and a lot of the button colors and stuff like that, you can kind of grab whichever ones you need to, right? You see all of these inherit from the first block, and then this block is mainly inherited by everything down here, unless there's an opacity. Unfortunately, you can't easily apply an opacity to a color that's in a variable, so we have to do this. But um, there's this chaining cascade, right? Like the C in CSS is cascade. So those values, you can override them, and then you wind up having it cascade down so that um, all the other ones inherit it. Um, So you can do all of that in the customizer very quickly. And actually, if we go back here to where we set these, you can fiddle with this to see which ones. These are, see, they disappeared, so the title obviously doesn't inherit that color, or it overrides it somewhere, and the date, right? So we can, here's the date in yellow. Again, I don't have I do have a link. The continue, this link doesn't get that. This is for links inside the text content, so it doesn't show on these views. But that would be the simplest way to do it. Would be to go into the customizer, toggle a few of these to colors that you like, and then do a single override for the base text color. And then if you find any specific ones, if we go to a single event, you can do this in the customizer too. You can navigate around to see how it applies to different pages, and you can see, oh, well, see, this one's not working. Why is this one not working? This is text color text primary. Text color text primary. Oh, let me publish. That's why. It's not always good about applying colors as you navigate. Something is overriding, I think. We'll find out in a second. Let's go back to this. Please excuse my weird event titles. They're all just auto-generated, so I can create batches of them at one time. All right, so see here we go to the single, and it's not working on single. So let's find that. That's this paragraph. And even though we have overridden this, this section is not in tribe common, so we just need to add it. So we can do this, boom, right? And then we can find the other places where this is. So this is single tribe events. So we actually can probably, I wonder if we can add one more comma. You can change them or add several of them by adding commas, right? It's probably a little hard to, I can't change the size of this, but if there's a space, it will assume that this element is a child of this element, but you can just put a comma in, and then it's like this or this or this, and then white, and now all of our text is white just by adding 2 more classes, and we're good. And there's our green link color. Okay.
In the event view, the featured image is left justified. How do you center it?
In the single event view, sure. I'll go back to
It says in the event view. That might be the photo view. Maybe.
Okay. Well, let's see. Let's go here. No, I think he probably means this one.
Oh yeah.
Right. So this image, if let me pull this up so you can see what's going on here. Let's try to find. Okay, so this is a order. Margin bottom. What I'm looking for is a text align. See this text align? Barring anything else, the text align usually defaults to left, and an image, if it's smaller than the container it's in, will follow the text generally. So let's copy this class and let's add a new style. Oh, hey, didn't even have to copy it. Let's do text align center. And that's not working, which means there's something else being applied to it. Another option is here. You see we have tribe events image. We don't actually have a margin applied, so let's do margin auto. Okay, so that tells it within the space that you're in, apply automatic margins to center the item. So the space here, the image is the same height as the container, but it's not the same width. So that spaces the margins out evenly on either side of the image, and that'll center it. Um, it really, like here, this works fine. It really depends on what's happening. If this is a flex container, which is a little more complicated, then you have specific rules you can pass for flex containers to center items as well. So, and we use some of those in places. This is too simple a spot to use flex. But yeah, this margin auto on tribe event image, and then on the image itself, actually do margin auto. Okay. All right.
In some cases, the Elementor class overrides the TEC class, for instance, in links. Is there a way to force the TEC class without using important?
Yes. I'm gonna here, this will be the easiest way. I'm gonna share my screen again, but I'm actually gonna share my code editor. Okay. So if we're talking about CSS, and let's say that let me close the console and close that, so you can just see the code. We're looking at TEC text, or TEC event content, just for the sake of argument, and the color is blue, right? But you have an Elementor class that is more specific, right? And it's more specific because here we have one class and here we have two. And specificity is the bane of particularly less experience, but even senior front end developers sometimes run into issues with specificity. So if both of these apply to the same element, and this one's black and this one's blue, then the text is going to be black because of the double class. Another thing I mentioned before was, if we have a content ID, an ID is more specific than a class. So the red would override the blue. Depending on how specific this is, it might not override the black, but it probably will. So if this is our actual content, right? If we're looking at something where, like, we have an Elementor div and the ID is content ID, right? And then we have a div with our class of tech event content, right? Text div, right? So our looks something like this. We're gonna skip over this one because either one will work here, right? Now we don't want to necessarily just override content ID because you're talking about specifically for events. What we want is this section to be red. So you would just do this. And this basically says when there is a tech event content inside content ID, the color is red. So if content ID is color black, right? So we have these three styles. This one will always override this one, right? This one will override both of these, and our text color here will be red. And that would be the way to do it. And again, you could put a little snip like this into the customizer or wherever you prefer to keep your custom styles. Um, we have tried in a lot of instances to add styles like this for some specific themes. For example, the official themes, the like 2021 whatever themes, um, where possible, we've put in overriding styles so that our styles continue, and then those. Remember, this is probably actually going to say something like dash dash tech text color primary, right? And if this is working, you can override this and you'll be fine. We may have something, be more like somewhere else in our plugin, we would have something like this in a file named like Elementor CSS override, whatever, right? We would have something like this that overrides it and sets it to the same color, right? And then all you actually have to do is override this value, right? From black to blue or red. Here. So I unfortunately am not running Elementor, so whoop. Promised I wasn't going to do that. Sorry. um,
It's okay.
but the way to do it is to combine the two selectors. So you figure out which selector is the parent and which is the child. You do parent and then you do child, and um, and it will override. So,
Okay, I just put in the chat. Someone was asking about like a feature request, so I just put a link in the chat to the what's it called, like the looped in place where people can add that.
oh, it's about adding colors to the customizer.
Yeah.
Yeah, Adam, I'll caution that the customizer is sort of, as far as WordPress is concerned, is very close to like end of life, because as they expand more and more into site editing, which they used to call full site editing, and blocks, the customizer is they've been phasing it out. It's available because if you have the events calendar installed, it has things that use the customizer, and it's set up so like the customizer will disappear. You'll notice if you set up a site with a block theme, with a site editing theme, and you go to the admin and you haven't installed any plugins yet, there will be no customizer there. It won't be available. As soon as you install the events calendar, because we hook into the customizer, WordPress says, oh, they're using it, let's show it, and they show it. That eventually will go away. So like our focus, instead of expanding on the customizer, is expanding on how we interact with the full site editor. So we may add something, but we may decide that it's more important um, to follow in WordPress's footsteps, which we sort of have to do to some degree as a WordPress plugin. So
Yeah. Understandable. We are just about out of time. So I think we got to everybody's questions. And you will receive an email tomorrow with the replay for the webinar, along with some helpful resources like knowledge base articles and a coupon code for a discount off of any of our plugins. So that's it. Thank you for joining.
see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.